Hopefully.
Mm.
The doors of the Chicago Bears 2024 season are about to close as they close out their season at Soldier Field, at least a home schedule anyway, with a 6-3 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. And there was a lot of funk, FUNK, that came out of the field last night. We'll give you the details. The NFL had 2 Christmas Day games, both rated very high, but what does that really mean? We'll dig into the details. What to expect from the NFL as we head down the regular season? We'll give you our weekly NFL picks. The NBA had Christmas Day games galore with the highest ratings in 5 years. Did you watch? Did you watch? What did you watch? We'll give you the details. That, and we count down to the NHL's Winter Classic game between the Chicago Blackhawks and the St. Louis Blues that will take place on New Year's Eve. That and a whole lot more as the hashtag Football Friday edition starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. You're live in living color on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. You know that's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X and IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full powers to give you dumbos to build and be a boot.
Ho, ho, ho. Hope you had a great Christmas. Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you whether you're watching us live on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube or on replay. Shout out to the replay game. Don't you ever forget that we're always here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, live and on demand. And you know we will provide.
And we'll provide you with some of the best here on Second City Sports on this, Christmas week. If you're tuning us in for the first time, welcome. Tell your friends about us. Also, too, happy third day of Hanukkah for those who celebrate. Also, happy Kwanzaa for those who celebrate that as well. Of course, we got we'll do our NFL Week 17 picks, of course, and also too, we got some sports media news, including nice ratings for the NFL on Netflix, and of course, some big career news concerning one of our good friends of the show, the Bulls. Well, they didn't have a good week this week, including last night. We'll talk about that and the rest of the Christmas Day games, which actually did pretty well themselves, and a whole lot more. But Sid, first, no, the Mariners did not play the White Sox or the Cubs, but it might as well have been they might as well have 6-3 loss for the Bears against the Seahawks to cap off losing 10 in a row to cap off their home schedule. And the last time they actually did, neither team, the Bears did not score a touchdown against. So go all the way back to 2002 where the Buccaneers beat the Bears 15-0. It was also week 17. It was actually the last game of the season. And the Ducks are fired there for that season as well.
I remember that was back in 2002 in the Champagne.
Yes, because the Soldier Field was to go to renovations, and
Oh, that's
Harry Burr,
right. Yep.
Harry Burr was a QB there. He threw 4 interceptions that game, and
He was
Martin
terrible.
Gramatic, Martin Gramatic had 5 field goals, so they really didn't have to do too much. That was back when Tony Dungy was coaching
Remember that
that.
was John Gruden. Remember they won the Super Bowl that
Oh
year.
yeah, that was like the year after that.
Mhm.
So Martin Gregg had 5 field goals that year. That was actually the last time Bears opponent did not score a touchdown. Caleb Williams 122 yards, he had an interception. There goes that streak. He was sacked 7 times. 7 times that Mr. Williams was sacked. DeAndre Swift had 53 rushing yards. Geno Smith 160 yards. Zach Charbonnet had 57 rushing yards as well. Swift had 53. But Leonard Williams, who actually like the old Leonard Williams when he was with the Jets, with 2 sacks, 2 of those 7 sacks. Devon Witherspoon, a former Illini, he had a sack as well for the Seahawks. I know we tease all the time about the 1980s football, Sid, but this was actually not. Here's how I feel about this game, folks. I was watching old episodes of Daylight for like the first 2.5 quarters. That just shows you how I felt about this game. So, and I looked at some of the crowd. So there were kids in the crowd. I heard on the radio, parents taking their kids to their first Bears game. I apologize to those folks. So, Sid, did you watch the game? If so, what did you think?
Couple of things here. One, yours surely will be part of a trivia question, which will reach into next season. When was the last time that the Bears won a home game? That was back on October 6th, the day before my birthday, against the Carolina Panthers, where they went 3-2. Your boy was in the building for that one, so I'll be part of a trivia question until next year when the Bears start playing at home. That's number one, even though I digress. Number two, you're not happy they gave you the Lakina McGee special, a 6-3 ball game. You weren't interested in that? Shame on you. But I digress on that. But here's the thing I want to read to you, folks. A couple statistics from last night's game. Total yards, Seattle, 265. The Bears, 179. You can't make this stuff up. Third down, if I can find it here. Third down. Seattle, 5 of 13. The Bears, 5 of 15. What does that tell you? Anyone? In Cole, as I said, the last 2 years we have a Pro Bowl tight end. Guess how many targets and how many receptions he had last night? Unless I missed it somewhere. Guess how many receptions he had last night? 0. 0. What the hell is going on, Lakina? I get it that this Bears coaching staff is they're not good. We understand that. It's going to be a big overhaul at the end of the season. The U-Haul trucks can't get here fast enough to one football drive up there at Hallis Hall up in Lake Forest. Number two, the offensive line is terrible, but we knew that coming into the season, and that's when the main guys were healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, we all stressed about the running game, Lakina, and people wanted to throw DeAndre Swift out of the window through the first couple weeks of the season, but the problem is steer deeper than DeAndre Swift. It's about the coaching, and it's about the mix of players in that locker room, which goes to your GM Ryan Poles. Lakina, I'll touch on this a little bit after the break regarding the Pete Carroll story that came out on Christmas Day. What perfect timing, huh? Wink, wink. But we'll touch about Pete Carroll after the break. But here's the thing. As we said, Lakina, we say this every year. With the teams that are not going to the playoffs, what do you play for? Your JOB, okay? But as I said, asked the question about this Bears team, and I'll ask it again. Are you playing for pride, or are you playing for your own agendas? We know they're not playing for pride, and looks like they're not playing for their own agendas either, Lakina. They're just going out there, going through the motions, and it showed last night.
Yeah, I mean, there was that touchdown to Doomsday that got called back because of a holding call, and then Kyler Gordon, he ran that, that was a nice strip, went back for a touchdown, but it turned out the play was already dead and he was already tackled, so that didn't count either. So I'm like, well, okay, but then of course, they gave up a sack. I'm talking about the first time. Then they got called for a penalty, and then they got called for another penalty. And I know some people say, well, why didn't Carlos Santos try a 57-yard field goal? That's barely within his range, for one. And two, it it was kind of misty out there at Soldier Field that last half quarter. So there was really no sense in even trying for that field goal. I'm like, did you want to watch another 15 minutes of that game? I know we didn't. So, it's definitely just one of those days where you're just like, nah, whatever. Actually, the second season sports on Sports Social got Lakina McGee sitting around with you as we're recapping, whatever that was that we saw last night between the Seahawks and the Bears. Now,
hot garbage.
I would say worse than hot garbage. But at least the Seahawks keep their playoff chances alive in the NFC West. Now, as for the Bears, I mean, it wasn't like, okay, yeah, the defense played a little bit better, but let's remember, I know people want to go through the numbers of, they scored like 30 points or something like that. They scored like 28 against the Vikings last Sunday, but the Seahawks aren't exactly an offensive juggernaut. So, yeah, you saw, Crowder Gordon that made a couple of nice plays. TJ Edwards had a nice, not too bad of a showing yesterday. But again, at the same time, you're just like, yeah, whatever. You can tell some of those guys are probably have checked out. So, I think that's sort of a thing. And we'll get to that after the break too. But like I said, I have my own thoughts about some of this stuff. I've listened to people and reading things, and it's just like, are y'all really? It's just, whatever. Like I said, we'll talk about it after the break. But yeah, some of the things that I've been seeing and hearing are just like, what the hell are y'all talking about? But again, I digress.
I'll let you gather yourself for after the break when we go into the
Thank
Pete
you.
Carroll situation shortly. But another thing that I saw in last night's game, Lakina, we talked about Jalen Johnson, who got paid this offseason. He's had an up and down year. A person that has really taken a step back and all started in that Washington game, that's Tyreek Stevenson. DK Metcalf headbutted him last night. They started chopping it at the bit, talking and yapping, and DK Metcalf knew what he was doing. And Tyreek Stevenson, he fell for the bait and got caught in the trap. Lakina, you can't tell me that these teams don't watch the film and they can't see the triggers and in the weaknesses of some of these players. That's exactly what happened last night with the Seattle Seahawks. As we said on our show on Monday, the Seahawks were coming in here mad because they lost to the Vikings last Sunday at home. Like you mentioned, they're fighting for their playoff lives. They're barely alive after winning last night, but they were coming in here much more focused team. I'm sure they knew it'd be when the schedule came out last May, but they knew that they had to travel to Chicago on Christmas Day, and they wanted to get out there as soon as possible. I'm sure they couldn't do much walking around downtown Chicago at this time of year, which is beautiful. But they had a business trip to take care of the Bears, which they did. But Seattle wasn't in a good mood last night. You had your chance to have a better performance in front of that crowd last night, and it was very disappointing. I'm with you, Lakina. We're 10 days now, 9 days left until this regular season is over. And let's just say if the Packers, assuming that they beat the Vikings on Sunday, I'm sure they'll be resting some guys next week, even though they'll finish up their home schedule against the Bears. Let's just say wherever the scenario is next week, and the Bears so happen to win, okay, but the way that this Bears team has been playing, it really doesn't matter. Looking, it really doesn't matter. We'll get a clean house, a clean bill of health in terms of the coaches. Will the GM and or the president join that group? ... Question mark. It remains to be seen, but that's going to be a long, drawn-out, ugly offseason. And I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, we'll have more thoughts about this coming up next. Of course, the news that came, that dropped, on Christmas morning. How fitting that Pete Carroll apparently is interested in the Bears job. We'll talk about that. And some of my other thoughts too about the coaching and all that stuff as we kind of get close to actually talk about it. We'll talk about some actually, I wouldn't say great football, but other the action from the week 17. Of course, we had a couple of great games. Not great games, but games on Christmas Day. Of course, we'll preview the rest of the NFL week 17 slate and a whole lot more. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports. Sports of Chicago, War Bears, and NFL talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool. These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils too.
These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kingdom again on the Twitter, execute again, IG.
If you have any questions or comments for us regarding that garbage on the lakefront last night with the Bears 6-3 loss to the Seattle Seahawks, the Pete Carroll situation, or the NFL games on Christmas Day that took place a couple of days ago, you can hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakino will get them up on the screen for you.
Part of the therapy session here, folks. So feel free to air out those grievances. It is festive as it is that time of year. So air out those grievances if you're still pissed about it, or if you just didn't bother watching it last night. Who could blame you? But let's talk about Pete Carroll's interest in the Bears job, because just so happens that about just before 9 o'clock on Christmas Day, how fitting that a news drops that, hey, you know what? He's interested in the Bears job. So, and of course he has Super Bowl with the Seahawks. He's an advisor to them now. He also, of course, has a national championship game when he was at USC. Of course, a veteran coach. He's been around, forever. But it's kind of interesting. But yeah. So I want to know your thoughts first.
Okay, initially when I heard that report on Christmas Day, I kind of dismissed it, but I took a second look and a third look, and I heard many opinions around the city, and they said, "Oh, he's too old to coach. He's out of touch of today's league." I was like, "He's not Tony La Russa. He's not sleeping at the. He's only been, 2 seasons removed?" Looking if my math is correct, 2 years
Give
removed.
or
So
take, yeah.
you're right. So he's not like Tony La Russa has been removed for a whole decade. Okay, but I get the whole ageism thing. So I heard someone say it was the league is gearing toward younger coaches. I understand that, but Pete Carroll has a pedigree, okay? And I'm not just talking about just the Seahawks. We'll get into that his Seahawks portion of his career in just a moment. But remember, Lakina here, he plays Bill Parcells in New England. He had that team competitive, but they weren't able to get over that hump. And they kept him around in the coaching circles, even though he went to USC. You saw what he did there. But I want to bring in some facts about Pete Carroll, who should be interviewed by the Bears, by the way. And I'll give you the reason why he's qualified for this job. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
We all know what he did in 2014 and 2013, getting those Seahawks teams to back-to-back Super Bowls. It should have been back-to-back Super Bowl titles, but we won't discuss that Patriots loss. That's a whole nother issue. But remember, following the 2017 season, that a majority of those players from the Legion Boom were let go or traded, what have you, because of age, and it got tied Pete Carroll's act. Listen to the statistics, okay? 2018, yes, the same year the Bears won the division, went to the playoffs, okay? The Seahawks, and this is with Russell Wilson now, still young. In 2018, Seahawks went 10-6, wildcard team, lost to the Cowboys in the playoffs. 2019, 11-5, won the playoff game against Philadelphia, but lost in the division round to the Green Bay Packers. The COVID year, 2020, 12-4, lost in the playoffs to the Los Angeles Rams. 2021, 7-10, missed the playoffs. 2022, 9-8, lost in the wild card round at the 49ers. I know people want to focus on what Pete Carroll did in the first half of the Seahawks coaching career. I'm focusing on the back half of his Seahawks coaching career, where all the Legion of Boom folks were gone. A couple of the veterans from that team, like Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner, remained in that transition to those new players. Except for 1 year, he got those teams to the playoff and won a couple playoff games. So people want to focus in on the first half of his career. I'm focusing on the second half of his career when most of the core players from that Super Bowl team was gone. He, in my opinion, he did his best job then over the last few years in the back half of his Seahawks career. And that's why he should be considered in serious consideration for this Bears coaching job.
Okay, but let me push back on some of that stuff. I mean, there's a reason why, they let him go. Well, it was kind of a mutual part of the ways, however you want to look at it.
Mhm.
But I would also say they didn't go back to the Super Bowl though. Yeah, they won a couple of playoff games and made the playoffs consistently, but they weren't able to go back to the promised land because they were beaten by, more talented and better teams. That's one. And two, yeah, I know. Look, he has energy for days. I'm sure he probably has more energy than me, and he's about 30 years. He's like 30 years older than me. But even still, he's still 73 years old. And look, I know that, yeah, he could probably still reach some of the players, today, but there's a reason why he fell out of favor up there in Seattle. And so I would say this is kind of like a John Fox type of situation, maybe in a different way because of his age. Like I said, I'm no ageist, but at the same time, though, you got to have time and place. I know Bill Belichick, of course, he's over there in North Carolina now, but I don't think that's going to last maybe a year or 2 years. That's just my opinion. I've said that on this show about a week ago when the news came out. So you want to talk to him? Yes. But I would say, giving him the job? No, because I think the oldest coach is probably in his is Andy Reid. I think he's the oldest coach right now. I think he's only in his mid 60s. So I would say you want to go from someone who's 73 and such. I mean, we don't know things that could happen and such. So yeah, I think look, if you want to talk to him, fine. Again, if this was 5 years ago, I'd be all for it. But now I don't think so because you saw what happened in that second Super Bowl, which they should have won. I'm not going to get into that. I know it's been about a decade. I know Seattle fans are still pissed about that. But, it's sort of one of those days where you're kind of opening sort of like a Pandora's box you may not want to, put back. So you want to listen to him, fine. You don't know how much control he's going to want to have. That's a whole different. That's another thing, too. He's probably going to want complete control of how, player development and selection and stuff like that. So he's going to want some control as well. So you really think the Bears are going to want to give that up? So, yeah, that's why I kind of push back on some of the look, I love Pete Carroll. I've loved him since he was in New England, but I just think, especially for today's NFL, I don't think he would be a right fit. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and like I said before we had this debate, that he's only 2 years removed, 2 short years removed from coaching. He's connected to today's NFL, so it's not like he's going to come in and read some textbook and try to play catch up and read a bunch of Cliff Note books. And he's there in the trenches of what's happening in the league today. I'm not saying give him the keys to the car right now, no, because there's other candidates that you need to interview, but with his credentials and yours truly focusing on the second half of his coaching career in Seattle, he should be considered a top five candidate for the job. I'm not saying given the job right now, don't interview anybody else. No, that's not what I'm saying. But people want to dismiss it like, he's too old. I get the age. He can't change his age. Okay, I get that, but he does have the credentials for consideration for this job. And I know there's a USC connection because he used to coach there and Caleb Williams played there. We get that part. I'm not focusing on that part, but I'm focusing on what he did in this last 5-6 years after the Legion of Boom left. You're correct. The results are what they are. He didn't lead them back to the promised land. But let's be honest here, Lakina. The Bears are nowhere near close to a Super Bowl caliber winning team. We get that. That's the ultimate goal. Are they near the door of a playoff team if fixed right? Yes. And what Pete Carroll has done less with what the Bears have right now. And look what he's done, what I just read to you from 2017, 2018 on. That's why I'm focusing on that, because he could turn water into wine. But like I said, the ultimate question is, will he bring his own guy in, or can he work well with Ryan Poles? That's $1 million question. And let's be honest with you, Lakina, deep down, we probably know that answer, but the Bears should not turn a blind eye to him. Give him an interview, because you never know. Maybe he can find a diamond in the rough of names that he'll probably tell you that you can go get. You never know. But to purely tell him to talk to the hand, I think that'll be disrespectful. I'm not saying hand him once again. I'm not saying hand him the job right now, but give him a serious consideration for the interview, because
well, no, go ahead, finish.
No, go ahead.
Well, no. The thing is that he had like a good GM to kind of help him out in John Schneider. No, not Bo Duke, not that John Schneider, but the other John Schneider, of course, a veteran GM. But he had, those two kind of worked well together, and they were able to kind of build on some of the Legion of Boom and the guy Russell Wilson and such. They were able to kind of keep it going there for as long as they did before anything else kind of fell off a little bit. Guys just got older and not like a production and such. Now on the flip side of that, I keep hearing the name Ben Johnson. Well, I mean, you're kind of going through the same thing here. I'm sorry, but I know this might I might rub some people the wrong way when I say this, but I look at him. I look at kind of like a Matt Nagy 2.0 type, because he got this sort of very similar. Because when he was at Kansas City, he had all these cool gimmicky plays and such, and it was just one of those things where you're just like, I know he's sort of like the next big thing. I know people want Ben Johnson to come here, but if you look at this roster, if you're Ben Johnson, you're thinking, what the heck am I doing here? And so, hell, you might be better off. Look, there are other better jobs opened as well. You've got New Orleans, you've got maybe the Giants job will be opened up. Maybe we know the Jets job's open, so maybe go to one of those. So there's no guarantee if Johnson when and if he decides to become, if he leaves Detroit, there's no guarantee he's going to go to Chicago. There really is no guarantee of that. I've heard Mike Vrabel's name. His name's being floated around. I mean, do you want another, or we're going to kind of go through the same thing? I know he's got the credentials too, but he never was able to take that next step. So is Vrabel the guy for you? I know Cliff Kingsbury's name's been thrown around as well with the Caleb connection. I mean, he's got NFL coaching experience. I don't know. I mean, if you got a good DC around him, maybe that he can work with, maybe that might help as well. And also, do you want Ryan Poles to pick, whoever the next coach is? I don't. Again, we'll get into all this as we down the line. But yeah, that's kind of my early synopsis. I know we got we got to move on here in a second, but that's just my synopsis of all this stuff up to this point.
Yeah, and a couple of the names you just mentioned, Ben Johnson. If you believe that story by Albert Breer of SI. The Bears had a chance to get him last year, but they decided to stick with Matt Eberflus, and we saw what happened. If you interview him, it doesn't guarantee that he gets the job. And number two, if you're Ben Johnson, Do you really want to coach? Of course, on paper you want to coach Chicago because Caleb Williams is the franchise quarterback. Put that aside. If you're Ben Johnson, if the reports are true that the Bears had strong interest in you, but you didn't get the job because they wanted to keep Eberflus for an extra year. Do you really want to go back to Chicago? That's something, if you're Ben Johnson, you should ponder. Also, Mike Vrabel, he should get an interview with the Bears because I remember him as a player. We both remember him as a player, and he kind of had the same coaching stature in terms of results as Pete Carroll. But Pete Carroll, of course, broke through and won. It's not easy winning Super Bowls. You understand it, but those Titan teams, Lakina, those Tennessee Titans teams that Mike Vrabel coached, they were aggressive. They were hungry. There were no nonsense. Yes, you had Derrick Henry in his prime, but those defenses were way better than what they are now in terms of the Titans. But the season that sticks out to me with Mike Vrabel, 2019, and this is before Kansas City got started with their current dynasty right now. They were in that game in the first half in the AFC Championship game against Kansas City on the road. And you know this as well as I do, Lakina. Shout out to our good friend of the show from Nashville, Kayla Anderson, a friend of the show, who covers the Titans. Remember that year, the Tennessee Titans had no business being the AFC title game. With a couple of big moves, and you got Caleb Williams as your franchise quarterback for Mike Vrabel. Also, too, he's a younger version of John Fox, from what I hear. He can grab the attention of these young guys. They need to clean house. Whoever's on his program, you stay on the team. Whoever's not with the program, you get him out of here. That's what this Bears organization needs right now. And the $1 million question is, with a statue like Mike Vrabel, will the Bears get out the way and let him do his thing? And that's where the organization comes in. Yeah, we could talk about the candidates that should be considered for this job, and rightfully so. But the $1 million question is, will the Bears organization, i.e. George McCaskey, the owner, will truly get out the way and let them cook?
To be continued. This is Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Lakina McGeesy Brown with you. Look, so we'll have time to talk about that upon that after the season. Thank God there's one more week of that. Now, with the rest of the week, 17 games. These games, of course, were on Netflix. Kansas City and Pittsburgh, 29-10. Really wasn't. It was a game for maybe 5 minutes, but of course, things kind of went off the rails there for like a quarter and a half. Pat Mahomes for 320 yards and 3 TDs. Travis Kelce had a TD catch, so Xavier Worthy. He also had a TD catch for them. Najee Harris had 74 rushing yards. Russell Wilson was sacked 5 times, and then this was without Chris Jones in the lineup, mind you, and he had interception as well for Mr. Wilson. Of course, the Chiefs, clinched the AFC #1 seed, so they get that extra bye. I know they're 15-1. I know Chiefs fans want to say, "Hey, look what they've done," but look, I'm still taking the field at this point. So I know they're not going to play anything meaningful for another 3 weeks. So I'm just like, okay, but the Chiefs are the #1 seed again.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, this game was all about the Kansas City Chiefs, as you mentioned. Pat Mahomes didn't have to do too much. The Pat Mahomes didn't have to do too much. Yes, he had 3 touchdown passes, but it was a walkabout game for Travis Kelce. In my book, as you mentioned, 8 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. On the flip side, for the Steelers, they really couldn't get it going in the second half, only scoring 3 points. That's going to be a problem. In the first half, you saw them taking care of the football. You saw them running the ball, especially hard with Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. But as we said all year about the Steelers team, Lakina, the defense can only do so much. You need your offense to score points, and they didn't do that in the second half. The Chiefs outscored the Steelers 16-3 in that second half. It proves again it didn't have to come down to a nail biter for Kansas City, but good teams, even when they're not playing their best, they find a way to win games, and that's what Kansas City did this past Wednesday.
Off to the other game down in Houston. Again, another game that was the Texans scored 2 points. Unfortunately, the Ravens scored 31 as Lamar Jackson is proving that don't give Josh Allen the MVP trophy just yet. He had 168 yards and 2 TDs. He also had a rushing TD as well. Derrick Henry had 147 yards in the TD as well. On the flip side, CJ Stroud, interception, 185 yards. was sacked 5 times. So the Ravens defense is looking like they're playing well at the right time. They're kind of peaking at the right time. Roquan, so of course, former Bear. He led the Ravens with eight total sacks, including seven solo tackles, seven solo tackles with a sack. One of those 5 sacks that they had, and Kyle Hamilton had an interception, so they're in the driver's seat now to win the AFC North with the Steelers losing.
Yeah, Baltimore is getting together at the right time, as we mentioned. Lakina, they usually have those 2 or 3 games a year where you watch their offense and you just like watching paint dry on teeth. As you mentioned, they're playing well at the right time. Lamar Jackson, he's still in the conversation for MVP. That 48-yard touchdown run was just tremendous through that very good, tough Houston, Texas defense. Also, too, Derrick Henry had a monster game. 27 carries, 147 yards and a touchdown. He should be a top candidate for NFL Comeback Player of the Year. No one expected him to put up numbers like he has, especially at his age. But the Baltimore, they're the class of that AFC North, and should the Chiefs and Ravens meet in the AFC title game this year, I think it's going to be a different story, but we have a long way to go between the way the Baltimore's been playing, the way they've been playing. If they keep it up like this, it's going to be a tough battle for Kansas City to get out of the AFC.
Yes, it is. So, like I said, it's still a long way away. We got like 3 or 4 weeks before any of that, kind of, happens. So, we'll talk about that if it does come to that. Now, some of the rest of the NFL Week 17 slate here. A lot of games are saying you got 3 games tomorrow, a triple header on the NFL Network. Really, the one game that's kind of of significance, you've got the Rams hosting the Cardinals. Now, if the Rams win, they're in the driver's seat right now. Now it goes into all type of weird tiebreaker stuff, so it's kind of complicated. So I won't get into all that. But I think that's really going to be a big game that might decide who wins the NFC West. The Cardinals are eliminated, so we'll see if they play a little bit of pride. Also, the Broncos before that game, they play Cincinnati. Cincinnati needs to win this game in order to keep their very slim playoff hopes alive. Broncos win and they're in. So, the Chargers, they beat the Patriots next week. They're in. Tomorrow they're in.
Yeah, the 3 games I think they're going to be surprising to people tomorrow in terms of the competition. The Chargers, they've done well on the road this year, especially on the East Coast. Harbaugh will have his guys ready. New England, surprisingly, they've been playing well the last couple of weeks. They just haven't broke through in terms of a victory, unlike the Carolina Panthers last week. But that should be a tough game. I want to focus in on the Broncos and the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati, as we talked about, they've been playing well over the last month. Joe Burrow, 39 touchdowns, passes, and 8 interceptions. If it wasn't for their horrible start to the season, he'll be up there with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson for MVP. Denver, we all know they're a young team. Bo Nix is having an outstanding rookie campaign. Sean Payton, the head coach of the Broncos, should be given much credit there. Should the Broncos make the playoffs, I think Sean Payton should be your NFL head coach of the year. But the Broncos defense is very aggressive, very physical. So Joe Burrow and the rest of the offensive line is going to have a tough task to contain that Broncos front forward tomorrow. That's what I'll be watching out here. And for the Bengals, the running game, Chase Brown, former final Illini standout. I think the game's going to come down to his shoulders tomorrow. If the Bengals can run the ball with some consistency, I think they could pull off the tough win at home.
Couple other games of note here. These are the games that come on Sunday. Really, the Bucks, they got to beat a very scrappy Panther squad in order to keep their chance to win the NFC South alive. And if they beat the Panthers, which they should, they're going to be cheering hard for the Commanders as they host Atlanta. It's going to be raining out there just outside DC. It's going to be in the 50s, but it's going to be raining out there, so weather could be a factor in that sense. So Michael Penix and the Falcons, that's going to be interesting to see what happens in those 2 cities in the NFC South.
Yeah, Tampa Bay had a bad loss last week, and now they got to win just to keep their hopes alive in terms of win that NFC South. You mentioned the Falcons have a tougher task against Washington on Sunday night in front of a national audience on the road. the Buccaneers just got to get back to running the football. Baker Mayfield has had a tremendous year, 34 touchdown passes and 15 interceptions, but against the Panthers, just like they had in that first meeting a few weeks ago, you got to give the ball to Berkey Irving, let him run, let him cook, and have that defense be more aggressive and make some plays. Like you said, this Carolina team, they've been playing well over the last month, and they haven't earned a victory yet until last week. But this is going to be a tough game for the Buccaneers. Yes, it's at home, but I will not sleep on Carolina, and we'll see what happens there. Now the Falcons, Michael Penix Jr., this will be his first primetime game on the road. Assuming that the Buccaneers take care of the Panthers, it'll be that much more pressure against the Falcons as they'll head on the road against the Commanders. The Commanders are playing well right now. I know they beat Philadelphia last week, even though they injured Jalen Hurts. The Washington Commanders defense is turning it around, and unless Bijan Robinson comes out and has a monster game for the Atlanta Falcons, it's going to be a long night for Atlanta. I know people want to focus in on that defense. They have played better over the last 3 weeks, but they've been playing cupcakes, and they're going to face a real team in Washington on Sunday night, and that's going to be a tough task.
Well, and I'm sure Tom Brady's glad that that Fox flexed out of that Cowboys-Eagles game, because he probably would have been calling that game, but now he'll go to Minnesota indoors. And you'll see the Vikings host the Packers. The Vikings are in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed, of course. And the Packers, they've already clinched playoff spot. So we'll see if they I think this is the only thing. It's probably seeding is probably the only thing they can improve upon. So this should be a good one up there in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is a big game for both teams. For the Packers, it's about seeding and perhaps hosting a home playoff game on Wild Card Weekend in Lambeau. I know that's very important to them. I think if they win this game on Sunday, I think they'll clinch that. They already clinched the playoff spot. But for the Vikings, you mentioned they're not only chasing the number 1 seed, they're chasing the Detroit Lions for that NFC North Division title that we know that last week of the season where they face off each other in Minnesota could come down to the division. So it's more at stake for the Vikings than the Packers. And Sam Darnold, can he play well again? We'll soon find out. As we talked about, especially early in the year, that Packers defense, is there a scary defense in terms of names? No, but they're opportunistic defense. They can be aggressive. They turn the ball, force more turnovers, especially in terms of interceptions, than they have all of last year. And Jordan Love, the question is for the Packers. Jordan Love hasn't been healthy all year, dealing with that groin injury, but they definitely have a strong running game with Josh Jacobs, and that's what they've been leaning on all year.
The Lions go at San Francisco on Monday night, and that's going to be interesting too, because the Lions still have a lot to play for. They've got to not only for the NFC North, but also trying to clinch the number 1 seed. And it'll be interesting to see how the 49ers are. I know they've been banged up. They're building there for playoff contention, but I'm sure they would love to play spoiler for the Lions. Of course, this is a rematch of the NFC title game, and I'm interested to see, like I said, what the 49ers mindsets are going to be. Like I said, I mean, I know they've been banged up too, but I'm sure they would love to play spoiler and perhaps maybe, kind of help the Vikings out maybe a little bit.
If you're the Lions, no matter what happens in that Green Bay, Minnesota game, this is a business trip for the Lions. Yes, I know you talked about this being a rematch from the last year's title game. Both teams are very different from what happened almost a year ago. For the Lions, this is a business trip. Yes, she's struggling to get healthy bodies in that locker room, but this is a business trip for them. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think this is going to be a game for him. We can see him go off, take the pressure off of Jared Goff. And on the flip side, for the 49ers, it's all about pride. Unlike the Bears, let's see if they can play with pride. They have the home crowd behind them. And Brock Purdy needs to play better, too. We all know he's going to get paid somewhat, somehow, some way this offseason. But it's all about the pride for the 49ers. For the Lions, you just got to go in there, take care of business. Don't do too much. Don't get fancy. Just go in there, play Lions football, do your job. Be aggressive defensively. You should come out there with a win.
All right, we'll do our picks at the bottom of the next hour here. And of course, hour number 1 in the books, hour number 2 coming up here on Second City Sports. Sports on Chicago, of course, we'll talk the Bulls as they blew a 17-point lead in Atlanta. And of course, we'll recap the NBA Christmas Day games, which actually got some good ratings, which I'm sure will make Adam Silver very happy. Of course, for our NFL Week 17.
And LeBron James too.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll talk about LeBron said after that the Lakers win over the Warriors, which actually ended up being a good game. Well, and of course we'll do our NFL Week 17 picks as well, and of course some sports media news of nice numbers for both the NFL and the NBA. Of course, some career news from one of our great friends of the show, and so much more. Lakeena McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Hour number 2, more fun coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Solve it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 on the hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. By now, you better know that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Lakeena McGee on the Twitter, execute again, IG.
If you have any questions or comments for us as we dive into the world of basketball in the NBA and the Chicago Bulls, if you have any questions or comments regarding that subject, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Get them up on the screen for you.
Wasn't a good week for the Bulls as they lose to the Bucks without Dame and Giannis, 112-91, 17 points for Vooch in that game on Monday. But probably the worst of it is that they had a 17-point lead down in Atlanta last night. And, well, unfortunately, they didn't lose by 8. How, you ask? Well, they gave them a 50-burger at the fourth quarter against Atlanta. I know they were shorthanded. Zach had 37 points. Kobe had his best games of the season with 23. Vooch had 19 and 8 boards. But on the flip side, though, Javon Carter had 26 off the bench. He had a big first half. I'm sure he probably got drug tested after that. Drug testing right now as we speak. But Jalen Johnson had a career high 30 points. Trae Young had 27, and DeAndre Hunter had 25, which has a career high for him. I don't think he scored that many points since the national championship game, but I digress. He was at Virginia. But so the Bulls lose a tough one down in Atlanta, giving up 50. I mean, if it wasn't for the Bears game, that dumpster fire, this would probably be the top story right now all over Chicago. But 141, 133, the Bulls lose to the Hawks. So, Sid, what happened?
Here's what happened. As we talked about with this Bulls team over the last 3-4 years, you cannot play defense, especially within the interior. You let guys come into the lane with a free pass. They score buckets. That's what happens. You lose games and you lose your confidence. Number two, in the midst of that 20-0 run against Atlanta, you turn the ball over. You can't inbound the ball. How the hell you play basketball like you can't inbound the damn ball? Someone please explain that to me. And number three, you were flat-footed on defense. Atlanta, even though they're not a great team, they're very good at transition basketball, especially with Trae Young. And you saw that last night. And the Bulls were flat-footed as a team getting back on defense, which leads to my point at number 4. Nikolai Vucevic, Lakina. I know he didn't have a double last night, but he did end up with 19 points and 8 rebounds. He's been playing well over these last 2 or 3 weeks, but he rarely saw the ball, especially in the post in the fourth quarter. How many times we said that on this show, looking over the last 2 or 3 years? Even when Vooch doesn't score the ball within the post, when you involve him in the offense, one, he's one of the best passing big men in the league. And number 2, when he has the matchup, most of the time he takes advantage of him. You didn't see any of that with him being involved in the offensive game plan last night. And it cost the Bulls once again. Yes, you mentioned they were out Josh Giddey, they were out Ayo Dosunmu, they were out Lonzo Ball, but when you have a great performance like you did with Zach LaVine, and you saw a little frustration with him too last night, you paid attention to the game and the highlights closely. And Kobe White, this has been his best game offensively in a month. I know he's dealing with an ankle, but when you get those top 2 players their best performances, and you play like luster on the defensive end, unfortunately, this is what happens.
Just I've got nothing for this because it's kind of like really like I looked at our girl Elizabeth Bergamini, who does a great job doing the with the Bulls coverage with the score, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to worry about the Bulls, yeah. But then I'm like, what the hell happened? And then I saw our buddy Big Dave Watson, Will Godley from CHGO, and they basically kind of just cover what we just said, that the interior defense and not being able to defend a 3. Of course, Trae Young hit a big 3 that kind of started that rally for Atlanta. And of course, Johnson hit a couple of 3s. DeAndre Hunter hit a couple of 3s, had 26 off the bench. So just not good showing by the Bulls. And it gets better for the Bulls. They get to play Milwaukee tomorrow. Yay! And of course, we'll see Ed or Dame are going to be in for that game. But again, like I said, we'll see what happens with that. Now, quick recap.
Just real quick, Lakina. And this is why the last night's loss was frustrating if you're a Bulls fan. 54% shooting overall, 51% from 3. If I would have told you that the Bulls shot 54%, including 51% from 3, you thought they would have won the game, correct?
You would think, but
that's not what happened.
These are the Bulls we're talking about, so we'll see. But
only the Bulls.
Yeah, but that wasn't even the highest scoring game that says. So if you took the over of some of these games, Memphis outlasts Toronto 155-126. So if you took the over on this one, you had a nice start to your weekend. Zach Edey had 21 points, definitely his highest so far in his career. Of course, Archie Barrett 27, a losing effort. And their coach got ejected, just a thought. So, that was interesting how happened with that. Now, Cade Cunningham hit a 4-point play with about 4 seconds left as as Detroit upset the Kings 114-113. Cunningham had 33 points there in that game. That was just the whole ending was just weird, for all
Yeah.
happenstance. But that was just a very odd ending for that game. Portland beat Utah at Utah in a good one here. 120-111. Houston beats the Pelicans. Jalen Green had 30 points in that game. Brooklyn beat Milwaukee. Cam Johnson had 29 as they held off the Bucks. Washington beat Charlotte 113-110. Jordan Poole had 25 in that game. 89-88 Miami over Orlando. Tyler Hero had 20 points. OKC held off Indiana 121-14, 45 points for SGA. And I want to go back to that Miami game for a second. I guess Pat Riley put the kibosh on any Butler rumor. So I don't know how you feel about that. I mean, there was a Sharna tweet that came out that said that that Butler wanted out of Miami. Pat Riley came in and said that's not true. So who do you believe said in all this?
Even though Pat Riley, as I said for years, he's the godfather of the NBA, I believe Jimmy Butler in this situation. Here's why: because we all know that he's looking for a contract extension. It's been a distraction to an extent with this Miami Heat team, whether you want to believe it or not. And it's all going to come down to a power struggle. Will Jimmy Butler get his way, or will Pat Riley get his way? Usually, Pat Riley gets his way, but I don't know if that's going to happen this time because we all know that players have more control in today's NBA as they ever had before in years prior. So with the Heat struggling this year, being around 500, they can still make the playoffs, but they got to put the Jimmy Butler situation in the bed, whether it's actually trading him or not. We still got a little bit over a month before the trade deadline, right before the All-Star break. So we'll see what happens there. But it's clear it's been a distraction to an extent for this Heat team this year. Give Eric Spoelstra credit. I know he's one of the best coaches in professional sports, definitely a top 3 coach in basketball. But the Butler situation is just a distraction. And I know Pat Riley, what he said yesterday is supposedly nip in the bud, but we all know that this is far from over.
To be continued with this one too, so we'll see what happens there. Now going into the Christmas Day games, and we'll talk about the Rays in a second. But Phoenix with a nice win over Denver, 110-100, as KD had 27 points, Jokic had 25. But as the Suns, look, they need this to stay within pace in that top 6. So and like I said, with Book being out for a little bit, I know that he's been kind of picking up the slack. Bradley Beal also had 27. Tyus Jones had 17. They're going to need guys to kind of step up. Of course, with Book's going to be out for a little bit.
Yeah, you mentioned it last with the game on Wednesday. It was all about the supporting cast, and as we talked about with the Phoenix Suns all year, you need those 3 guys to stay healthy. Obviously, that's not the case once again, but yeah, unlike a year ago, you have other guys stepping up, and that's what happened. On the flip side for Denver, Lakina, I know Jokic did his thing, but Jamal Murray, he's still trying to work his way back along with Eric Gordon. But as I said before, when the season started, I'll say it again, outside of Russell Westbrook, who's going to be that second guy to take pressure off of him coming off the bench right now? We just haven't seen it with this Denver Nuggets team on a consistent basis.
Yeah, that's something to look. We'll see. I would if you're a Denver fan, you should be worried, yet. But we'll see if by the trade deadline, we'll see. They may have to make some moves, so we'll see what happens with that. Lakers beat the Warriors. It's probably one of the games of the night here in these Christmas Day games. 113. Of course, Steph Curry, 38 points. Of course, you had a jumper that tied the game, but it was Mr. Austin Reeves, jumper as time expired. With 26 points that propelled the Lakers over the Warriors. LeBron had 31. We'll get to his comments later on about NBA and NFL on Christmas, but yeah, unfortunately, in one of the opening minutes, AD got hurt, so he couldn't play the rest of the game with the ankle injury. So it was up to guys like Dalton Kennett, Austin Reeves, and them to pick up the slack.
Notice the thing here, folks. Role players. You need them, especially around this time of year when your superstars are ailing or are they struggling. You need somebody else to step up. That's what happens happened with the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James, what can you say about this soon-to-be 40-year-old star? As we said before, we'll say it again. With his age and with his stamina, he cannot go full force every night. You need other people to step up. We talked about with Austin Reeves and Don Connect and D'Angelo Russell in particular. It was a nice team win for the Lakers the other night. They made some key defensive stops late on the Warriors. Like you say, it was a very entertaining game to watch. And shout out to Austin Reeves. I know he's been struggling over the past year or so. It was nice for him to get that game-winning bucket with no time remaining. We'll see what happens with both these teams going forward. We know that the Lakers have been struggling recently, especially on the defensive end, but maybe with this win, they can help build their confidence. We'll see what happens with that team going forward.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to, as for the Warriors, you wonder, like, Steph can only do so much at his age, so we'll see what happens with that one. Philadelphia got a nice win over Boston, 118-114, probably one of the bigger upsets among the 5 games here. Of course, Joel Embiid, I know he got nicked up a little bit, but he scored 27. Tyrese Maxey had 33 points leading the way. On the flip side, for the Celtics, 32 points for Jason Tatum, 23 for Jaylen Brown. But yeah, it was Philadelphia that hit all the big shots late.
Yeah, Caleb Martin, in particular, the former Miami Heat star, he came up big with a back-to-back threes down the stretch. And the Philadelphia 76ers had a couple of defensive plays as well down the stretch. And the two categories that the Philadelphia 76ers had over the Boston Celtics in the game: offensive rebounding and free throws. The Sixers hit their free throws, and they had a +3 advantage on the offensive rebound department over the Celtics. The Celtics, their legs got underneath them a little bit outside of Tatum and Brown, so that was also a key factor as well.
Yeah, nice win for Philadelphia. And who knows? Look, they've been playing pretty well lately, so I don't know if they'll end up being the number one. They'll be like in the top 6 in the East, but this might actually help them. So, but again, health is going to be a factor. They got to keep, Maxey has to step up, and Embiid and PG have to stay healthy. So we'll see what happens there. Now, Minnesota pulled off another minor upset over Dallas, 105-99 on Wednesday. Anthony Edwards had 26. Julius Randle kicked in with 23. Luka had 14 because he injured his calf early in the game, and he's actually expected to miss an extended period of time. How much time? They're not saying right now, but Kyrie had 39. But yeah, that's a big loss for the Mavs. Luka is going to be gone for a while.
Yeah, we'll see. It depends on how long that Luka will be gone. Dallas, you may see them make a move between now and the trade deadline. We'll see how long Luka will be out. But it was a shame that he injured his calf early in the game. But you mentioned Anthony Edwards stepped up big for Minnesota. Julius Randle in his best game, in my opinion, of the season all-around game with 23, 10, and 8. Kyrie Irving on the other side for Miami, 39 points. So you got to have guys like Najee Marshall, Lively, and some of the other guys step up for the Mavericks with the absence of Luka Doncic. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to be that second guy next to Kyrie Irving, helping them out in the scoring department.
They may have to do some stuff here, so we'll see what happens there. The Knicks hold off the Spurs despite 42 and 18 boards for Wembanyama. Mikal Bridges had a career high 41 for the Knicks as they helped them held off the Spurs. Cat had 21 and Jalen Brunson had 20. But yeah, it was a Mikal Bridges show.
Yeah, he had the hot hand. That's that old NBA Jam video game used to say, he's on fire. And that's what happened on Christmas Day for him as he had a career performance. On the flip side, you mentioned about Victor Wembanyama. For those of you that haven't watched him this year, I know the Spurs are not on television a lot. I'm talking about national television a lot. He, as the kids would say, he's that dude. He is him. And you saw why on Christmas Day you mentioned with 42 points, 18 rebounds. He also had 4 blocks. So what makes Victor Wembanyama so special, we talked about it in the draft over a year ago. He has guard skills for a big man, and he's very mobile. He's not just going to stand there and block shots and be stiff on defense, and on offense, he's not just going to stand there and have tip dunks and whatnot. He has a guard skill ability, so to go along with his skills as a big man. So he is very dangerous on both ends, and he's going to be one of those dudes that the league is going to help carry on into the future.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see if he can only get better. He's looked really good so far. No sophomore slump for him. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Monday's matchups, you got Detroit, edging out the Lakers 117-114. Malik Beasley had 21 points for Detroit. The Pacers beat the Warriors 111-105. Remember I said Phoenix got their revenge against Denver? Well, they played on Monday. No, I wasn't repeating myself. They actually played twice this week. This time, that time, Denver got the best of Phoenix. Jokic had 32 points at a double there. Dallas beat Portland. No trouble with them. OKC, no trouble with Washington. The Clippers beat Memphis, 29 points for Norman Powell. The Knicks beat the Raptors. Miami beat Brooklyn. Bam had 23 there. Excuse me. Atlanta upset Minnesota, 29 points for Trae Young. Philadelphia beat San Antonio. Maxey, going a little bit of a run here. He had 32 in this game as well. Orlando upset Boston. Cleveland beat Utah, and Houston pulled away from Charlotte.
One question I have to ask you, Lakina. I kind of felt like we were in the same position last year with this team. That's the Boston Celtics. They lost their last two games. They lost a tough one, a rare game at home to Philadelphia. And you mentioned they lost again the other day. Are you starting to be get worried about the Boston Celtics, or it's just another bump in the road?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a long season, so if you're gonna have little ebbs and flows, people are gonna lose 2, 3, or 4 in a row. I know Celtics fans are freaking out. I heard a couple of folks in Boston talking about it. Oh my God, the other sky's falling. Look, guys, relax. They're still in the top 3 in the East. It's a long season. I would say, I think, with the early scheduling and the early start, I think, folk guys are getting a little bit tired, so they need a little bit of a break. So hopefully, that'll be the case here. They're back in action tonight. We'll talk about their schedule in a second, but I think Boston. Yeah, I think they just need a rest. They need another player. I know they were able to get rid of last year when they won it, but they're going to need another player to kind of pick up the slack for Brown and Tatum and Holiday. They're going to need another kind of like big score to kind of take the pressure off them. So they're going to have to do that this year because especially they want to repeat.
And let's not forget to also Kristaps Porzingis has been back for a while, but he started off the year on the injury list, so you got to work him back into the line to get that chemistry going, and most importantly, keep him healthy. But we mentioned about the bench. The bench has actually been a little bit better this year. Peyton Pritchard, I know he hit some big shots last year, especially during that playoff run. He's been playing actually way better this year than anyone has anticipated. But I'll say it again, who's going to be that second guy to help him out coming out the bench, and especially when Tatum or Jaylen Brown struggles, who's going to be that second guy next to Pritchard coming out of the bench for the Celtics to fill in those spots in the nights when your big guys are not there. We've seen that struggle with the Denver Nuggets. If should that same scenario happen with Boston, we'll see what this team is really made of. But I'm with you. It's just a bump in the road, but barring injury, they're still going to finish number 1 in the East at the end of the year.
Cleveland may have something to say about that, so we'll see. Still a long way to go, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Cleveland may have something to say about that, the number 1 seed, but we'll see. It'll be interesting, down the line, especially when we get closer to the trade deadline. Now the NBA games for this weekend. Starting tonight, you got New York and Orlando. The first game of the NBA TV doubleheader. You should be a good one. You got Indiana and the aforementioned Boston. At 6:30, you got San Antonio and Brooklyn. Minnesota and Houston, that should be an intriguing matchup out west. Memphis and New Orleans, Cleveland and Denver, Dallas and Phoenix. And the second game, I'll be watching that game. And the second game of the NBA TV doubleheader, you got Golden State and the Clippers. Clippers are back in action for the first time in a couple of days.
All right, tomorrow, Saturday. Your NBA TV Saturday afternoon game is the Atlanta Hawks hosting the Miami Heat, and followed by the OKC Thunder at the Charlotte Hornets. That's at 5 o'clock on NBA TV. The rest of the Saturday night schedule as follows. The Knicks will take on the Wizards in our nation's capital. As you mentioned early in the segment, the Bucks will pay a visit to Chicago to take on the Bulls. In the triple header action on NBA TV, their final game will feature the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Durant versus Steph Curry. There should be nothing but excitement there. Finishing out tomorrow's schedule, Detroit will continue on their West Coast road trip. They'll face Denver. At 8:30, we'll have Philadelphia, Utah. At 9 o'clock, we'll have Dallas at Portland. And wrapping up the Saturday night schedule, Sacramento off a tough loss last night at home to Detroit. They'll travel to Los Angeles to take on the Los Angeles Lakers.
That is the schedule for this weekend in the NBA.
Oh, we have the Sunday schedule since we'll be back on Monday. The Sunday schedule looks like this. Brooklyn will face Orlando. Indiana will have their rematch against the Celtics. No, we're not repeating ourselves, folks, as Lakina would say. Atlanta will visit Toronto. Miami will visit Houston. That should be an interesting one there, especially with the trade talks. If you believe the rumors that Jimmy Butler may be traded to Houston, we'll see about that. Memphis will visit OKC, and San Antonio will face Minnesota. And that's your schedule for Sunday and for the weekend in the NBA.
You listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, Steve Brown with you. Of course, as we still got a few minutes left before we go to break. Now, the NBA ratings, came out yesterday, and for the all 5 games rated very well for the first time. Best ratings for the NBA on Christmas Day in 5 years, and they were up 84%. Across ABC, ESPN, ESPN2. Remember that first game with the Spurs and the Knicks was on ESPN, was on Disney Plus because of the anime and the cool Disney graphics there. You saw Wemby looking a little weird there, but the matchup between the Lakers and the Warriors, that was the most watched NBA regular season Christmas Day game in 5 years. About 7.76 million viewers, and peaked with 8.32 million viewers. We also, we talked about, LeBron's comments after the Lakers held off the Warriors, saying that he loves the NBA, but he loves the NFL, but the NBA is their time. I mean, I think these ratings, I think, kind of show that folks don't really focus on the NBA right, early on. But I think I guess the NBA's demise was greatly exaggerated.
Here's the thing, we talked about this all the majority of the time of the last few years with the NBA, and we saw this especially during the Michael Jordan era of the 90s and early 2000s. The casual fan does not care about the NBA until after New Year's and around Christmas and after the New Year's, because those when the big matchups happen for national television. But the deeper problem for the NBA is, you have load management. Most of your big time stars are quote unquote resting. If they're not really hurt, they're resting and saving themselves for the playoffs, and it really hurts the product. But even though Anthony Davis, we talked about in our review of the Lakers Warriors from the other night, even though Anthony Davis ran out early with the injury, the game was very competitive. You still had LeBron James on the floor, you still had Steph, and they were kind of going back and forth, and that's what you want to see from your big stars, healthy and playing at their best, and that's where we got it in that game. And also, too, you had that in the Philadelphia-Boston game, 2 Eastern Conference rivals, 2 longtime rivals, bitter division rivals as well. And we got great games as long as the players are healthy and they're playing at the highest level. That's what fans want to see. And in my opinion, we got that in those 2 games.
Yeah, we did. Like I said, I think competitive games also help too, unlike the NFL games. We'll have the NFL ratings after the break. But yeah, I think, I think this will definitely be like one of those things. I know I heard somebody say that, well, that there was no NFL Christmas primetime game. Well, I mean, look, if the matches are there, I think people will tune in. So I think it's going to be one of those days where you just got to kind of like lean into it. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I guess, look, the NBA is still pretty solid. I think this is going to be around the time where people start actually paying attention to the NBA.
Yeah, those 2 games that I mentioned, they weren't competitive. This will be a whole different conversation. And like you mentioned, regarding the Netflix deal with the NFL, you have 2 more years of this, folks. So whether you like it or not, get ready, because the NFL, they take over everything and they're just getting started.
All right, we'll take a really quick break. Speaking of the NFL, we're going to go back to it, doing our NFL Week 17 picks. A little college football as we get into the weeks of the bowl season. Also, some college too. Some great matchups coming up this weekend, as some teams are starting or returning to conference play, depending on how you look at it. We got sports media news, of course, some career news for one of our good friends of the show, and so much more. Lakina McGee, Steve Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. More fun coming up as we wrap up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports' hashtag Football Friday edition, the last one for the year 2024. You're locked and loaded and live in the 11 color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid Deslakina. This is our last break of the show for today and for the week. But before we get to where you can connect us with, I'd like to give you my social media platforms where you can follow yours truly, and that's on the Twitter, X, and Instagram at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom again on the Twitter, X again, IG.
As we get into our NFL picks, sports media news, and more, you can have any questions or comments. This is our last break of the show for today. If you have any questions or comments regarding any of the subjects that we talked about on our program today, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section of the Kingdom. Get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, we got our girl Christine Mann from Kicks our Bees picks right here. So we'll definitely get that going there now. Incidentally, I gained a game on her. You gained a game on me. So there's like a 4-game gap between the three of us, I should say. I'm up by 2 games on Christine. I'm up on 4 games on you, Sid. So still a lot to be decided these next couple of weeks. So it's still very, very close and very tight. A little too tight for my taste.
Love it. I love it.
All right, so let's get to these. We'll start the triple header games coming up on tomorrow you got the Chargers and the Patriots. I mean, some of these games really shouldn't be too tough to pick, but incidentally, the Chargers winning, they're in. So I know some of the stuff has been going on with the Patriots. Is Jared Mayo's child security in question and such? But I think the Chargers should win this game. I know, look, they've done a great job going across country, play these new games. So yeah, they shouldn't have no trouble with the Patriots tomorrow. So I'm picking the Chargers.
Yeah, the Patriots gave it all they had last week at Buffalo, despite an injured Josh Allen, but they came up short. Jacob May is actually playing well. Ramondre Stevenson, he could run the ball well for the New England Patriots. He has 800 yards on the rushing yards on the year with 7 rushing touchdowns. But the Chargers are the tougher team here. They smell the playoffs on the line, like you said. They win. If they win, they're in. They're a tougher team on the road than they are at home. Even though they're 4-3 away from SoFi Stadium, their record is better than that. The way they play on the road, the Chargers are favored by 4.5. I expect them to win, so I'm going with the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles, as we call them on this show.
And Christine also has the Chargers, so should be a good one. But it should be a good one here. This next game, all 3 of these games tomorrow on NFL Network, the triple header on NFL Network. Next game, you got the Broncos and the Bengals. Broncos kind of the same situation that the Chargers are in. They win and they're in. And of course, Christine, of course, she's picking her hubby's team, the Broncos. I'm also picking the Broncos too. I think it'll be close though, because I know that Cincinnati, they got a lot to play for, but their defense is banged up, and I would be disappointed if Bo Nix doesn't kind of make mincemeat out of that defense. So it could be a high-scoring game. Now, the Broncos defense is very opportunistic, so I could see them perhaps maybe making a couple of big plays. So I think that'll be just enough for them to win the game.
The Broncos have had a nice season so far, but this is a big test for them, and this is where head coach Sean Payton will come into play. He'll have these guys focused. He'll have these guys ready, but you can't go through experience unless you go through it fully 100%. I think this Broncos team, they say that they're ready for the challenge, but I don't know if they'll be prepared. But to learn through your mistakes and through your experiences, you must go through it. And I think this is going to be a tough test for the Broncos tomorrow. I know they had some tough losses on the road this year, especially at Kansas City early in the year, but I think the Bengals have a surprise up their sleeve tomorrow. Chase Brown, as I said, he's their answer running back for the Bengals. Joe Burrow, I mentioned he's having a nice year, but I think this is going to be a Chase Brown show for the Bengals, and I think they'll walk out of the Cincinnati with the victory. The Bengals are currently 3.5-point favorites at home.
Could be maybe a pick 'em here, so we'll see what happens. The latter game, the nightcap of the triple header, I should say, out west at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. You got the Rams hosting the Cardinals. The Rams, they win, but they still won't be in because they got to wait for other stuff to happen on Sunday. So it might still be a lot of weirdness going on here with them even if they do end up winning. I said I'm not picking the Cardinals no more this year. I'm gonna stick to that. I mean, the Cardinals have disappointed me all season long, and yeah, look, I mean, they're Matt Stafford still has it. Kyron Williams has been looking really good. So the defense been getting better, playing better, and they're still young. So yeah, I think the Rams, it'll be a close one, like it usually is between these two, but I think the Rams will just have to win, and that's why I'm picking the Rams. Christine also has the Rams as well, incidentally.
Make it 3 for 3. I'm going with the Rams as well. They're at SoFi Stadium, and they are favored by 6.5.
All right. So Sunday's game, Sunday. Starting here, you got the Colts and the Giants. The Colts need a win, and they're gonna need a whole lot of help. So I'm picking Indy because the Giants have basically quit on Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll will be on his way getting his pink slip and link card coming up in a couple of weeks. So I'm gonna pick the Giants. Oh good Lord, not the Giants. Good grief. I'm talking about the Colts. I know Anthony Richardson still, that's still questionable. Look, you got Joe Flacco. Even if he can't play, like I said, Indy needs to win this game and hope and pray that a lot of help happens ahead of them. So yeah, I'm picking the Colts, and so is Christine. She also has the Colts.
Make it 3 for 3. I'm going with the Colts here as well. The weather, the temperature should be in favor at this time of year, 48 degrees and rain. So, what does that mean? You ask. Well, I'm glad you asked. It means a strong running game. Jonathan Taylor is that man for the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts will use him a ton, and I think they'll walk out of the way with the victory. They are currently favored. I talk about the Colts by 7.5. Lakina, real quick without Googling. Do you know when the last time the Giants win winless at home? Because I don't.
Oh, I don't either. I know it wasn't recent, hasn't been recently, but it's probably been a minute. Yeah, so
That's how bad this season has been for the New York Football Giants. I just had to ask that question.
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, the Giants. I know Giants fans are probably waiting for the season to be over with as well. Now, staying in New York, we're gonna go a little bit further north. You got northwest, I should say. You got the Bills hosting the Jets. They win this, they'll be the look at number 2 seed. I'm talking about Buffalo, and looks like Sauce Gardner and a couple other stars are gonna be out for the Jets. So yeah, short and sweet Buffalo, and Christine also has Buffalo as well.
Even though Josh Allen's nipped up here, you should activate Coach Sean McDermott. The running game with James Cook, you saw what he did last week against the New England Patriots. He has 928 rushing yards on the year, 14 rushing touchdowns. I'm talking about James Cook. Let that man cook some more. This should be a dominating performance by the Bills, especially in the ground game, to take pressure off of Josh Allen. I'm going with Buffalo as well. They're currently favored by 9.5.
All right, you got the. I feel sorry for Spiro Diaz because he's gonna have the call this game coming up for CBS. You got the Titans and the Jags, both 3-12. Okay, but yeah, I it'll be interesting to see like how both these teams. Oh God, Jesus. I don't know what's gonna happen in this game. They played. Jeez, they played each other.
Flip a coin.
Yeah. Honestly, this really is a coin flip. So I guess I'll pick Tennessee, even though they'll probably get their revenge on them as the Jags beat Tennessee at home. So I guess I'll see if Tennessee returns the favor. So we'll see what happens. And Christine has the Jaguars.
Give me the Jaguars. Tennessee's currently favored by 1, which means it's at a pick 'em.
Yeah, so they don't see, even Vegas doesn't know what's going on here. So we'll see what happens. There you got the Raiders.
Or they don't care.
Or well, that too. Yeah, well, it's probably that there too. But yeah, you got the Raiders and the Saints, and another one of these who cares games. Honestly, she says she got the Jags. She says yuck to the Jags. Now this game she has the Saints, so she says yucky with a question mark. So she's got the New Orleans, so I guess I'll pick New Orleans as well since they're at home.
This was supposed to be the revenge game for Derek Carr, but I doubt it if he plays. But like you said, this is a toss-off game here once again. Vegas agrees with us. Vegas has Vegas at 1.5, but just because they're the home team, they have a better defense. So I'm going with the Saints.
Oh boy, I feel for anybody who has to watch that one. All right, the intriguing one here in the NFC South, we got the Bucks hosting the Panthers. Now, again, the Bucks got to win in order to kind of keep pace with Atlanta. They let that game last week slip away, so now they don't control their own destiny in the NFC South anymore. So I think they're going to take it out on the Panthers. I know the Panthers have been playing very much better. Bryce Young's been playing a lot better. I think it'll be close for a while, but I think the Bucks, they're too, they're more talent on the Bucks squad. So I'm picking Tampa Bay, and also Christine agrees. She also is picking Tampa.
Make it 3 for 3. I'm going with Tampa. They had a bad loss at Dallas last Sunday night. The Panthers finally got off the schneid with a victory at home last week against Arizona, knocking them out of playoff contention. As I said in our last segment, this should be the Bucky Irving show like it was in the first meeting a few weeks ago. Let him run the ball, take pressure off of Baker Mayfield, and let that defense get back to playing some aggressive football. The Buccaneers are currently favored by 8 points at home. If you miss it, I'm going with Tampa.
All right. This will be the game that will be airing here in Chicago. Of course, Fox has a doubleheader this week. Thank God no Bears game. You got the Cowboys and the Eagles. Eagles gotta keep pace with Detroit and Minnesota for that number 1 seed. Of course, Jalen Hurts has not practiced all week with that concussion, so it looks like it's gonna be Kenny Pickett again. And Dallas, look, I'm sure they're gonna want to. They're playing for their jobs. They want to play spoiler. But I think if you're asked Philadelphia, I think they feel like they let that game against Washington slip away last week, and they probably did. So I think they'll do just enough to win this game. I think they'll weather could be a factor here because I think it's going to rain here in Philadelphia too. So it could be the battle of the running game. So I think Saquon Barkley. I know despite what Eric Dickerson says, he doesn't want him public his rushing record, but he might end up being closer to. He might end up getting close to that too, because it's going to be a lot of the run game here. So yeah, I'm picking Philadelphia, and Christine agrees. She's also picking Philly.
I got something that Eric Dickerson said on his local radio show in Los Angeles about college football. Remind me if we had time to talk about that, so bookmark that. But as far as this game is concerned, Philadelphia let one get away in our nation's capital last week. Like you said, if Kenny Pickett starts, it's going to be the Saquon Barkley show. And Philadelphia should do enough to win this one there at home, and they're favored by 7.5.
Yeah, they should be able to take care of the Cowboys. The Loans CBS game at 3:05. I don't think a lot of people are going to watch this one. You got the Dolphins and the Browns. The Dolphins need to win this game in order and get a lot of help in front of them to have to keep pace in that AFC playoff picture. I know Tua's been playing very well lately. I know Tyreek's been playing very well too. I think Kane's going to be good. I think the Browns have kind of on the kind of out their off season as well. So I'm picking Miami. No waste time here, and Christine also agrees. She's picking Miami as well.
Give me Miami as well. They're currently favored by 6.5 on the road. Real quickly, Keena, I feel sorry for Scott Hansen and the NFL Red Zone crew. They're only going to be flipping between 2 late games.
Right, yeah, I know. Yeah, but he's had a pretty busy last couple of days, so that's it. But yeah, good for him. He definitely deserves all the success he's getting. But yeah, I guess he can go to the bathroom. I guess if or more commercials. We'll talk about that in a second. I know people are kind of not happy with it. It's not his fault, guys. He's only doing this job. But again, we'll see what happens there. Now, the game of the week in the NFC North, you got the Packers and the Vikings, and I mean, this is going to be interesting because I think the Packers, this is really more for seeding. So if they get a higher seed, maybe they'll, I think maybe they want to host a playoff game at Lambeau. So, this might be, this is definitely still it for them. Minnesota still trying to keep pace. They've won 11 in a row. This is a tough one. Incidentally, Christine has Green Bay. She's picking Green Bay. So to pull off the upset on the road, they did beat Minnesota earlier this season. Oh gosh, I might regret this. But I'm picking Green Bay too. I just think that I think Jordan Love and that defense. It could be the Josh Jacobs show. They do give up a lot of the secondary gives up a lot of long passes, so I think that's what they're going to depend on. I think that's what will help them win this game. I'm picking Green Bay. I'm probably going to regret this. If I pick Green Bay, and so is Christine. She agrees.
Both of you will regret this because here's the thing: the Vikings we talked about, they have a lot on the line, and that Vikings secondary is nothing to sneeze at, but their linebacker core is nothing to sneeze at either. As I mentioned earlier, Jordan Love is still injured for what happened he's been injured all year, and I know he doesn't have the stats to back it up because he's been injured. You want to force Jordan Love to throw long, deep passes. If that's the case, then Minnesota Vikings defense is hungry, aggressive, and they're getting ready to take over. And on the flip side for the Vikings offense, let Justin Jefferson cook, and you gotta let Aaron Jones. This will be his second game playing against his former team. He's going to be ready as well. So this is going to be a close game. I'm going with the Vikings at home. They are currently favored by an point and a half, which means that Vegas has it at a pick'em.
A pick'em. So yeah, it could definitely be could down to a field goal as it did their first meet. So we'll see what happens. Falcons and Sunday Night Football. Falcons and the Commanders. Let's see here. You start this one, Sid.
The Commanders are coming in at 10-5, 6-2 at home. They upset the Eagles at home last week, even after the injured Jalen Hurts. The Falcons had a big win last week, and they keep their playoff / division hopes alive at 8-7. I know the defense I mentioned earlier for the Falcons have been playing well, but they've been playing against garbage teams. You can take that for what it's worth. The Commanders are playing with very much confidence right now. If not Sean Payton, I think that Dan Quinn will be your head coach of the year. I think the Commanders have a little bit more talent than the Falcons do, and the Commanders' defense has really been coming on over the last month or so. So for that alone, I'm going with Washington. They're currently favored by 4.5 at home.
Yeah, I'm also picking Washington as well. I just think that weather could be a factor there. There too, of course, it's going to be raining. So, excuse me.
58 degrees and raining.
Yeah, so it could be the running matchup here. So you may not need to, I think Dales may not have to throw a lot. So because of course the rain is going to be the issue here. So I think the Washington's defense, they made that nice stop against Philadelphia. I think they're starting to play, very well. Atlanta, we'll see how Michael Penix does, against that Washington defense. It'll be a close one, but I think Washington will win it. I think just because they're a slightly better squad, and they're going to be playing the elements, so that should favor them. And of course, Kristen agrees. She also picks Washington. Now, of course, last but not least, this Monday night game. Of course, this game will be simulcast on ESPN and ABC. No Manning cast for this one. You got a rematch of the NFC title game. I know this is going to be totally different than what we thought was going to be earlier this year. You got Detroit and San Francisco, and Detroit still got a lot to play for. Still, San Francisco, I know they're banged up, and I know that they've been just it's just been a lost season for them, with all the injuries and such. So I pick a Detroit. It's going to be a close one, but yeah, I'm picking Detroit. But like I said, it's going to be very close. I wouldn't be surprised if Purdy has one of his best performances this year, because I'm sure they would love to play spoiler for Detroit. But I'm picking Detroit in a close one too. Again, it could come down to a field goal.
Give me Detroit as well, as I said earlier in our last segment. Last segment of the first hour, this is a business trip for Detroit. Hopefully you can get out of there with no major injuries. You still have something to play for, the number one overall seed in the conference, and the number one team in the division as well. So this is a business trip for Detroit. Even though San Francisco's out of playoff contention, don't come in there expecting the cakewalk. Yeah, go in there and assert dominance early. I think they'll do that, and I think they'll pull off the win on the road. Detroit's currently favored by 3.5.
Yeah, so it could be interesting down there. Like I said, it could be a closer game. Christine also has Detroit. I think she said Washington. She said Washington, in case I didn't mention it a minute ago. And yeah, and thankfully no Bears game to predict. Thank the Lord. So those are right. Yeah, I know. Well, I know. Right, where's the confetti yet? But yeah, that's your schedule for the week 17. So great matchups and a lot of playoff implications in these matchups too. NFL week 17. No, NFL week 17 matchups.
Yeah. And week 18 will conclude next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. When the schedule comes out for those games, we'll give it to you right here on Second City Sports. Speaking of Second City Sports, you're listening to us live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. City Lakina here with you. Heading down the home stretch on our last Friday show for the year 2024. I want to go back to college football for this hot minute, Lakina. I know we'll get into the other big games coming up on our show on Monday as the college football playoff round continues. I know we have some bowl games this weekend. Congratulations to Northern Illinois. Unlike the Bears that finished their season strong at 7-5, they beat Fresno State in overtime, 28-20 in 2 overtime. So Northern Illinois finished the year at 7-5. They win the Idaho Potato Bowl. And so congratulations to that whole program up there. So I wanted to get that out there first. Second, Eric Dickerson, as you mentioned his name just a couple minutes ago. I heard him. He was on Rogan and Rodney on AM 570 LA Sports and doing his Wrigley hit earlier this week. And of course, he was part of the SMU team that got busted back in the day before he got drafted by the LA Rams. And he said, of course, SMU got destroyed by Penn State last Saturday afternoon. He said the first round game should be at a neutral site. Unlike the final 2 rounds, there are neutral sites, with the Peach Bowl and the Rose Bowl and things along that line. He said that the opening rounds should be at a neutral site as well, instead of the higher seed getting the home game. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, I think there are people that have been saying, and I've said that too. I think if you want to keep it fair, just put it in a neutral site game, kind of work it out. So it doesn't have to be bowl games per se. Just say this is the first round of the college football playoff game. Just find a nice neutral site like Atlanta, like SoFi Stadium. if you can kind of work it out with the NFL teams, look, try to get that going there as well. I think that's probably the best way if you want to keep it fair. And yeah, I think he does have a point there. And yeah, I kind of feel like, you're kind of like ruining it. I know the atmosphere there of having home field, but it kind of like sort of defeats the purpose of having the playoffs, playing in it. But then again, if you think about it in the FCS and some of the old lower divisions, they played at the other team's home site. So I can kind of see both sides of it. So yeah, it's kind of like I said, it's still a new thing. I'm sure they're gonna modify it too, but should be interesting to see what happens with that. Going through some of these games real quick from this week, of course. The years of the French fries, they also get a cool tour that Northern Illinois gets, so a nice win for them over Fresno State. UTSA beat Coastal Carolina in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Also on Monday, South Florida and San Jose State in a thriller over at the Hawaii Bowl on Christmas Eve. They beat them in 5 overtimes. Pittsburgh got outlasted 6 overtimes by Toledo, 48-46. K-State beat Rutgers 44-41 in the Rate Bowl. The 68 Ventures Bowl was another thriller. I was watching this game too. So that Bears game. Arkansas State came back to beat Bowling Green. The Friday got the Armed Forces Bowl going on right now as we speak. You got Oklahoma and Navy. Navy's up 21-14 over Oklahoma in that game. Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt, they'll be in the Birmingham Bowl down in Birmingham. That's going to come on at 2:30. A little while from now. Texas Tech and Arkansas, old Southwest foes, coming together for the Liberty Bowl down there in Memphis. That should be a good one on ESPN at 6. You got Washington State against Syracuse in the Holiday Bowl. That's down there in San Diego. That's going to be at 7 o'clock on Fox. USC and Texas A&M at 9:30 in the Las Vegas Bowl. That's going to be on ESPN as well. That's going to be the nightcap there in that game. You got 8 games. Busy Saturday. Tomorrow you got the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. That's going to be over at Fenway Park. You got UConn and North Carolina there at 10 a.m. Going to be right there in the middle of not too far from where Coach Belichick had his great glory days over there in Foxborough, not too far from there. Boston College in the Pinstripe Bowl against Nebraska. That's going to be at 11 a.m. on ABC. Louisiana and TCU. That's going to be in the New Mexico Bowl on ESPN. You got the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Yes, there is a Pop-Tarts Bowl, folks, down in Orlando. You got Iowa State and Miami. That should be a fun one at 2:30 on ABC.
All that sugar and diabetes.
I know, right? Those frosted brown sugar Pop-Tarts. Good Lord. Miami of Ohio, I should say, and Colorado State in the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. Yes, Snoop Dogg has a bowl named after him. Yeah, that's the second year for this bowl game. I'm sure he's going to be there cheering on the guys. That's going to be on the CW at 3:30 tomorrow. East Carolina, North Carolina State in the Military Bowl. That's down there in Annapolis, Maryland, where the Naval Academy is. That's going to be on ESPN at 4:45. You got the Valero Alamo Bowl on ABC. You got BYU and Colorado down there in San Antonio. Travis Hunter will play. These two teams did not play each other this year, so it's going to be the first meeting between these two teams, even though they're playing the Big 12. And Louisiana Tech.
It should have been the Big 12 title game, but
But yeah, a lot of Tech and Army in the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. So big bowl schedule coming up this weekend.
Yeah, call me crazy, but in that BYU Colorado game, take the over. Wherever the point total is, take the over. I'm just saying, as a casual betting brother, as Jason Goff would say, take the over, because I think a lot of points are going to be scored tomorrow. And we're not entertainment tonight or E-News, but Travis Hunter's fiance/girlfriend, she should be nowhere in sight. I'll leave it at that.
Well, that's a whole different conversation. So
right.
College hoops real quick, of course. Some of the light schedule because, of course, congrats to Nebraska. They won the Diamond Head Classic down over in Hawaii in the Big Island. Unfortunately, Loyola Chicago went over in that game, but nothing. Coach Valentine has a lot to figure out there as they get ready for conference play in the A-10. Baylor, they're back in action against Arlington Baptist. That's going to be on ESPN Plus. So tonight, tomorrow, a full slate of games here. Oh crap! I pressed the wrong button.
Yeah,
here.
UCLA and Gonzaga at 3:00 on Fox in the West Coast Hoops Classic. I'll be checking that one now, and also at the same time on CBS. Yes, the big CBS folks. We have HBCU basketball, and an HBCU showcase is between Howard and Hampton. I'll be checking
As well
that
the
out as well.
Yeah, good for CBS. I think this could be a sort of a new TV deal with them to start
Mhm.
showing more HBCU hoops. So that's really cool that they're doing that. DePaul, they're back in action on FS1. They face Loyola Maryland. This was just outside Baltimore, and the game preceding that game you talked about with Hampton and Howard. This is gonna be North Carolina Central, North Carolina A&T. That's gonna also be on CBS Sports Network. So good thing that CBS is showing HBCUs. That's really great to see. Ole Miss and Memphis. That's gonna be at 1 o'clock. Restoring that rivalry. That I think that's like highway. I forgot the highway was. That rivalry is gonna be at 1 o'clock on ESPN2. Let's see any other games of no we should talk about. Oh, Utah State and San Diego State. That's gonna be at 5 o'clock on the Big Fox Network. So that should be a good one there. Delaware and St. John's on FS1 at 5 as well. Yeah, that's about it for that. Grand Canyon against San Diego. That should be a good one. Over there, of course, it's not gonna be. I'm sure it's gonna be streaming somewhere. Sunday matchups. You got let's see anything. Oh, Northeastern Northwest. That's gonna be at 12:30 on Peacock. Prairie View and Oklahoma. That's at 1 o'clock on SEC Network Plus. And Illinois, they're back in action as they host Chicago State down in Champaign. That's going to be on the Big Ten Network. You got Alabama hosting
Yeah,
South Dakota
Northwestern
State.
will host Northeastern on Peacock on Sunday.
Yeah, 12:30. Yeah, sorry for you Northwestern, but you got to find the game on Peacock. Unfortunately, South Dakota State and Alabama. That's gonna be at 2 o'clock. I give Alabama credit for one to face some of these teams from the Summit League. That should be a fun one down there. Up there in Alabama, you got Oregon hosting Weber State. That's gonna be on Big Ten Plus. Toledo hosting going to Purdue. Purdue hosting Toledo on the Big Ten Network at 5 o'clock. And Michigan hosting Western Kentucky at 7 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, and Campbell and North Carolina on the AC Network at 7 o'clock. And that's your schedule for some of the college hoops this week. And
And one more game of note. Lakina locally in college basketball this Sunday at 4 o'clock on ESPN Plus, and of course locally on the Marquee Sports Network, aka the Cubs TV network. UIC will travel in state to face the Illinois State Cardinal. Shout out to our guy Jay Hood for ESPN 1000. He's the voice of Flames basketball. So good luck to UIC as they'll try to improve to 8-4. They'll play Illinois State on the road, and you can actually watch that game on Marquee Sports Network.
Yeah, that should be a fun one there. USC's playing pretty well, so I might try to check that out. Washington hosts New Jersey Institute of Technology. Yes, that is a real school, folks. On Peacock Network at 2 o'clock after that Northeastern Northwestern game. So so Peacock, you're getting into the college hoops action as well. That's your schedule for this weekend. As some of the as we're kind of getting back into the meat and potatoes of the college hoop season.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina here, hanging out here with you. Lakina, remind me to, and this is for you listeners and viewers out there on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page and Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. If you subscribe to The Athletic, check out the story that Mark Lazarus did on the potential sites for future Winter Classic games. We'll discuss it on Monday. It'll be prior to the Blues and Blackhawks. They'll face each other on New Year's Eve this year in Wrigley Field. We'll talk about that story on Monday. So there's homework assignment for you guys over the weekend. So check that story out about Mark Lazarus. He had it out yesterday on The Athletic about 10 potential future sites that the NHL should consider for future Winter Classic games. We'll talk about that on Monday. But as we usually do on Fridays, we like to end the show on a good note. Lakina, one of our good friends of the show, has a new gig, and this person will be staying in town.
Yes, if you guys been watching and listening to the show over the last few years, Casey Standahar, of course, she worked at CHGO. Of course, she also worked at Comcast, the Channel 100 Comcast network, covering high school football and high school boys and girls hoops. She covered a lot of the championship games downstate, and of course, like I said, she did stuff for CHGO for a little bit. Their social media and their content creation. I know she's been doing a lot of stuff for U of I down there, and their contact stuff. She does a lot of sideline stuff for pretty much everywhere. But now she gets to fulfill one of her biggest dreams. She announced this morning that she's going to be the new sports anchor reporter for NBC Chicago. She made the announcement this morning. Says she, when she was in college, yeah, right. I mean, totally deserving. I mean, she, she toured when she was in college. She toured she toured the studios over there. And she said she manifested, she said so that she was going to be working there someday. And sure enough, she is. And she's going to be, I think she's going to be doing a lot of stuff that Rudy Polinsky used to do over there. But she used to stay in Chicago. And, it's going to be, they've been looking for something for some time now. So I don't know if this is going to be, I don't know if other buddy Mike Burby, is he going to be the new? I'm sure they'll announce some stuff coming up before the end of the year. But this is great to hear that she has to stay in Chicago and she's to do basically, because when we first met her a few years back, Sid, I thought I knew a lot about sports until I met Casey. So she definitely has me as well, but me on that one.
Yeah, you're talking about a person who's been grinding like we have over the years. So when we first had her on, it was during the pandemic. We talked about The Last Dance. We talked about the road that she traveled up to that point. And then we had her on again, I believe, a year ago in one of our end of the year shows. I believe it was about a year ago when we had her on again. So she's a delight, a great personality. She's a joy to watch her work on television. So it's not a surprise. Maybe to some of you that don't know about her, it's a surprise. But to us that we know her personally a little bit off a year, it's not a surprise. She's worked her tail off. As you mentioned, some of the credentials she's done it ever since she's moved to Chicago about a decade ago now. She worked her butt off for this. She earned it. She deserves it. And she's going to do great things for NBC5 Chicago.
Yeah, definitely got a good one here. So perfect time, of course, and going to the end of the year. I know she said, she's been wanting to stay in Chicago. Like I said, she's been here for about a decade now. So, we love when great things happen to great folks, and she's definitely a great people. So congrats, Casey, if you're listening and watching. We'll try to have you back on the air soon before you get really, really busy into your schedule over at NBC Chicago, NBC5 Chicago, I should say.
Yes, congrats to us from both Sid Lakina and all of us at Second City Sports and Sports on Chicago.
And on that note, you can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitch. Oh, also, too, 65 million people tuned into those two NFL Christmas games on Netflix. Between the games themselves were actually pretty, but I think more the halftime stuff with Beyonce. I think that's what propelled it for a lot of those big numbers. It wasn't really the game.
Did you watch it at all?
Not really. Well, no, I kind of kept an eye on it.
Not either.
Yeah. I mean, I think once the games kind of got out of hand, I kind of I'll find something else to watch. I mean, I don't really want to watch.
I'm talking about the Beyonce halftime show. Did you watch it?
No, I didn't watch that. No, sorry, all you Bayhawk
I didn't
fans.
either.
Sorry, yeah, sorry.
but yeah, take us home.
Yeah, you can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter X before we get into trouble with the Bayhive crew. You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter X and Q. I'm just gonna be on the IG.
You can follow yours Shirley Sydney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Be sure to please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Don't forget, coming up this Monday will be our last show for 2024.
Yeah, it's going to be our year-end show. Of course, we'll recap the NFL Week 17 and the college hoops and NBA and NHL as well. We'll do our best, I guess our best moments for 2024, which is probably going to involve outside Chicago stuff, since there was really nothing to cheer about in Chicago this year for the most part, if we're being honest. But we're still going to I'm sure we're going to have some fun in our year-end show. Of course, hopefully, after the first year, we'll probably have more stuff to come up for you guys. We'll talk about all that on Monday, but it should be a fun show. But look, thank you guys for supporting us as always. And I know it's going to be a little bit warmer in some parts of the country, so stay dry, and be good to each other. Enjoy all the sports First hit, I Like Kids, but second CA Sports on Sports of Chicago. We'll see you guys Monday.
Holla!